Hi, my name is Michaela Parker Epperson, and thank you for attending my TED Talk. Today, we are going to talk about poverty and how it affects our education system on a global scale. As a future educator, when I spent some time in Joplin North Middle School, I realized that the school itself was surrounded by very low-income housing, and that directly affected the students that went to Joplin North Middle School. By its school being in a poverty-ridden area, that means that property taxes are going to be lower in that specific area, and property taxes typically fund schools, and that's on a global scale. School funding typically comes from property taxes, government grants, and things like that. And I saw this directly impact the students that went to Joplin North Middle School. I saw children who didn't know how to read, children who did not know how to write, children who could barely function in a classroom. They only responded to negativity. They responded to cutthroat teachers, and that's our future. Those are the children that we will send out to the workforce when they turn 18, if they make it to graduation. A lot of students who grow up in poverty-ridden areas will not make it to graduation. Students who grow up in poverty can suffer from illnesses that can include physical illnesses and mental illnesses. They can grow up in a malnourished house where their parents are not there to help feed them. And food is one thing that will help a child survive both inside a school and outside of a school. And if a child does not feel that they have the safety net of food in their home, they are going to drop out of schools to pursue food, which would mean when they come of age to get a job, they're going to drop out of school to help feed their family at home. Not to say that it's a parent's fault, not to say that it's the child's fault. It's nobody's fault. It's the world that we live in. So a child is going to drop out, get a job, probably never get their GED, and that is the spiral of downhill that will happen for the rest of their life. Because they're probably never going to go back to school. And that's where we are failing as an education system. A way that we can solve this problem is to make sure that children have food available to them at school and outside of school. Most children come to school to eat, and they come home and they don't have a hot meal ready for them like they do at school. So something that we can do to make that change is to start having local food drives. Schools can get in touch with churches, they can write letters to their government, any way that they can to have an after-school food program for these children, whether they take home this food at night, after school, or if they take it home on the weekends. Because when a child goes home on Friday after school is over, they're probably not going to eat for the entire Saturday and Sunday. They probably will not have their first meal back until that Monday morning if they attend for breakfast. Another problem with students living in poverty is they may not have the resources at home that they need to complete their schoolwork. That can include internet, that can include pencils, pens, paper, anything. And if they are at home with their brothers and sisters and their parents not there, they also don't have their parent to help them with their school, because their parents may need to take on 2 to 3 jobs just to be able to pay the rent, keep the lights on, keep the water hot for their children. And a way that we can prevent this from happening is making sure that all schoolwork can be done at school, where teachers can provide, pens, pencils. The school has computers for their children. That is something that I noticed in the school that I taught, or that I observed, was that each student was able to grab a computer that was assigned to each classroom and be able to do their work. They didn't have to go home. They weren't made to finish their PowerPoints when they got home. They finished at school, and teachers made sure that things were done at school. And I feel like that is a way to prevent children from feeling embarrassed to not have these things at home. They don't have to approach their teacher or their friends and say, hey, I don't have a computer, I don't have internet at home. How am I going to be able to complete my schoolwork? And that will also prevent them from failing. If schoolwork is able to be done at school, They don't have to worry about not being able to get poster board to finish a project and get an F on. They'll be able to finish it at school with supplies, and they will be able to achieve and feel good about themselves. We fail a lot as educators in that way, is we expect children to go home and have glue, have glitter, have pens, have pencils, have coloring, everything, and they can't afford it. They don't get to do that, so they come to school embarrassed about their project when we failed because we did not provide enough for them in school with funding that we can use. That is something that we need to be better about as an education system, is making sure that students don't feel excluded from their environment and their friends. Exclusion is the biggest failure that we will have. Excluding children from everybody else will make it incredibly difficult for them to succeed in life. And if they do not succeed in their education, they're not going to want to further their education. If you have someone who fails all of their tests and they barely scrape by to graduate, they're not going to want to go to college and barely scrape by or fail or lose all of that money. So something that we need to continue to work on a global scale is to make sure that we are providing for these children in any way that we can. Food is a simple luxury in life, and it doesn't even have to be, it just has to be nutritional. It doesn't have to be eating lobster and steak every day, but it's to make sure that they have a PB&J after school to help get them through to the next day. It's little things in life like that that we take for granted, and some of these children don't even have a chance, and it's not their fault. So school is a safe place for them, and school needs to continue to be a safe place for children all around the world. And it's not their fault for how their life has panned out. So we as educators need to make sure that we are providing the best care for these children. We are their caregivers when they are with us for the 8 to 9 hours. Thank you.